So I'm going to be going over Chapter 3, Innate Behavior. So I'm going to start with reflexes. This is a quote from Skinner. A reflex has only a descriptive force, it's not an explanation. So when you think of reflexes, like in the example he gave of a baby being born knowing how to breathe, that reflex has evolved over time. Any reflex evolves over time. For us, a baby is born knowing how to breathe and suckle. Nobody teaches them that, they're just born with that reflex. And animals over time have evolved and adapted to their environment. He also says that the lower species do things like building a nest and caring for their young because that is what they do. They've evolved to do that, and that kind of behavior is called instinctive behavior. And that's kind of the realm of reflexes as we've grown and evolved, but it's only a descriptive force. It's not an explanation to the behavior, it's just describing what the behavior is. With reflexes, I do want to leave you with this quote from the book. Every instance of instinctive behavior involves the knowing of something or object, a feeling in regard to it, and a strive towards or away from the object. I want to know your thoughts on this. It wasn't until actually making this that I kind of started to really understand it. So I want to know if you guys felt the same way, and we can have a discussion about kind of what you all think it means. So in this part of the chapter, instincts as driving forces had me very confused. The first paragraph I read probably 5 times, just because I didn't understand it. I don't really understand it still. So I'll give you this quote. Well, first he goes on to say, so my understanding, is that he's saying people think you can turn instinct into a force, but that's not necessarily the case. He gave this example of, and I'll quote it, when injured or threatened, an organism is likely to attack. But we have no reason to say that an organism attacks because it possesses an aggressive instinct. So my thoughts are kind of, we have this instinct of feeling threatened, and so therefore we are likely to attack. But he's saying, but we have no reason to say that we attack because of an aggressive instinct. So the instinct was never to attack originally. The instinct was, oh no, I'm feeling threatened, I need to react to save myself. And that's kind of where the natural selection plays into this, because if you didn't have that instinct of attacking or holding back if you felt threatened, would you be able to survive or not? So that's kind of my understanding of this whole section. I would love to hear everyone else's opinion on, and kind of help me understand it better, because that's my understanding, but I'm not exactly sure. It took me some time to get there and kind of understand it, so I am still kind of confused on it, so if anyone can help me out and help everyone else out, please do. So this section, preparation for new environments, is broken into responsive conditioning and operant conditioning. So contingencies of survival cannot produce useful behavior if the environment changed from generation to generation. But the mechanisms have evolved to which they acquire behaviors that are appropriate for the environment. So they have changed over time to be able to survive and work. So he gave the example of running away from a predator, and it shows that the heart can beat rapidly alone, and it's not a reflex. The reflex is the way to identify it beating rapidly, but the reflex starts when a change occurs. So the change is that they're now running and exerting the energy, which then allows the reflex to happen. I might be misunderstanding that because when I talk about it now, I'm feeling a little confused. So the wording in some of the things he says in his story really confused me. I think I understand something and then I'm not sure I actually do when I start really talking about it. But the inner supplements, so this section showed me that it's the environment that's associated with the reflex and not the person or the organism. Skinner gave the example again of the runner. So the runner's heart doesn't associate with the exertion. It's the environment that triggers it. So the environment of running away from a predator and exerting that energy to get away triggers that conditioned reflex of your heart beating rapidly in order to exert that much energy that you're trying to exert at that time. We move over to operant conditioning, so how a person deals effectively with a different environment. And so this is felt under the control of the behavior one. So operant conditioning behavior or operant behavior is known to be an act of will. It's under the control of the person. So any behavior that an organism needs, actually needs, is of survival value to them. It's what helps them survive in the environment and in life, and that's where we've evolved from as we've grown and figured out our survival values. And the consequence of the operant conditioning behavior is reinforcing. So when I read this, I thought of the example of when you're trying to escape harm. So go back to the running away from a predator. The consequence of you running away from the predator is safety. And knowing safety is there when you run away is reinforcing to that behavior. But again, operant behavior is an act of will. You're choosing to do that. You're choosing to do that, to run away and being reinforced for it in the end. So, intermingling of contingencies of survival and reinforcement. So we're going to talk about imprinting, and with imprinting, he uses an example of the duckling moving towards the mother and following her around. It doesn't need to be a mother duck that is there. It could be anything that is about the same size as that mother duck. And if the duckling is removed from that environment and put into a different one with an object or something that was about the same size, he would do the same thing. He would follow him around and move towards the mother. And so the imitation of the instincts of the herd. It's simply that you imitate the instincts of those around you to survive or to be reinforced. So if somebody's running away from fire, you're going to do the same thing. They're doing it because they're trying to survive, and you're following their instinct. You're following the instinct of the people around you. I really wanted to mention this quote because I found it interesting to the natural selection topic earlier in the chapter. I want to know what you guys think about this quote. What do you take from it in terms of natural selection, and also keeping in mind the way that society is today. So the quote is, aggressive behavior may be innate and released by specific circumstances in which survival value is plausible. I want to know your thoughts. on it, and then we can kind of talk about it from there, but I would like to learn about that from you guys. The last part, in an important sense, all behavior is inherited, since the organism that behaves is the product of natural selection. Operant conditioning is as much part of the genetic endowment as digestion. I want to bring up this. If all behaviors is inherited, we inherit it because of natural selection. And if that's the case, then it is part of that genetic endowment. We know we can change behaviors. Why do you think we act the way we do because of natural selection? We have inherited these behaviors because of natural selection, but we have the option to change them as needed, is how I think about it. We act the way we do because of those behaviors that we inherited, and that's how we got to where we are today. So it's important to know that our behaviors have been inherited because of everything that people have gone through beforehand, and the environment has changed. So I want to know your opinions on that as well, if you could. Okay, so the evaluation of mind and overall. So this section leads me to some of my ending questions. Just in general, this part of the chapter kind of brings up some questions. Feel free to answer some of them. You don't have to answer all of them, but I just kind of wanted to get the juices flowing. So how did the mind evolve? Do you have a theory of it on your own? And if so, what is it? What are your thoughts on this chapter altogether? Were you just as confused as I was at times? More confused, less confused? Let me know. Was there anything that really blew your mind? And then, what are your thoughts on survival and reinforcement being the same thing at times? I can't wait to hear everyone's opinions and start discussing some of this chapter to really get a full understanding of it.